I've observed so many emotions in life and so many different experiences and wanted a medium to be able to portray that to other people and connect with other people.
Open up, Colorado. It's 420. Time to grind and burn.
This is not your son's stoner show.
Open up. Open up. Open up.
And now, broadcasting live from the Ding Studios at 3835 Elm Street in Denver, Colorado. It's the Grind and Burn, a podcast from the Cannabis Community Project. Cushly Organic Products eliminates odor, and it's organic and it's non-toxic. I use it myself, and many of my close friends and family use it. www.cushly.com.
The 6 degrees of Cushly. Yeah, it's amazing.
Welcome back, Cannapreneurs. Welcome to the end of July as we slide into August. Can you believe we are halfway through the year already? Have you completed your summer goals, let alone any of your yearly goals that you gave yourself towards the beginning of the year? It does literally feel like time is getting faster. Does that mean I'm getting older? I don't know. Time is important, and saving yourself time could be one of the key factors that I'm singling out and learning about as being the most important thing as an entrepreneur in this business. Take the time this week to reflect on your summer goals, to reflect on where you are, because before you know it, I'm going to be telling you, we're moving right into September. Are you ready? Now, speaking of saving time, I saved my time this week by not attending an event. Normally, I would tell you about some great event I attended and how it made me learn and do this, and I met somebody, and some great positive aspect happened from attending a networking event, which would normally be the moral of my story, is that the only way to truly market yourself is to go out there in the community and be somebody, not just hide behind a computer. But this is a different story of how not attending an event saved me time. It saved me the $10 entry fee. This week there was a career fair that came through Denver being hyped up as this big, huge cannabis, blah, 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 career fair, thousands of jobs on the line. And I started scrolling through the website and trying to get information what I could and looking at the structure and as how it was set up. Structure is to see if they're going to be effective or not, and to see what type of applicants are coming to which fairs, because that's very important, especially if you're spending $300, $500, $600, $700 or more to acquire a table, or $20, $30, $40 to get a ticket to get in. You want to evaluate or vet out the quality of the networking event so you don't waste time and money. Hence my whole pre-spiel on time and money. So this career fair I did not go to for the simple reason that this show focuses on entrepreneurs, hence the term Cannapreneurs. In a career fair with the lineup they had, the types of jobs being offered, was not about entrepreneurship. It was about job seekers. A job seeker is somebody putting their hand out and saying, hey, how much are you going to pay me to occupy space and do some type of function you want me to do? Well, that's a person who is not an entrepreneur. Thus, it's not really on brand with what I'm doing here. So if I went to the career fair as a representative, as a patron, I would bring my microphone and try to represent the show and get sound clips and the whole deal. Really bring back to you this idea of, well, here was at the fair, a bunch of people looking for jobs. Here's the jobs being offered, a bunch of minimum wage, or better yet, a bunch of no-paying jobs where people work on quote-unquote commission and other types of loose connections of pay structures and job descriptions. How can we take this energy of people out there looking for jobs and people wanting to be involved in cannabis, where they're not just job seekers, but they're entrepreneurs, and they're finding opportunities of becoming that individually employed entity and working from within out, not seeking a job of a position to occupy and determining, well, this guy pays $10.50 an hour. Well, this guy pays $13. I guess I'll go with this guy. Let me tell you right now, if you're accepting a job for less than $25 an hour right now, you're working for minimum wage. Yeah, I know. You're going to say, no, minimum wage is like $8.30 or $8.50 or whatever state you're in where it's marginally different. No. This is the floor of minimum wage. This is the floor where it bottoms out. And the ceiling of minimum wage is about $25, meaning $25 is the minimum you need to support a full lifestyle of yourself or with a family working together with another partner making a similar wage, with kids or without kids, it doesn't matter. But to live in a decent home, have decent transportation, have all your amenities met, have money to put in savings, as well as money to donate to charities or your own causes every month, as well as marginal spending money to enjoy your life. If you're not doing all of those things and living and doing stuff to at least a minimal standard, and it's because you don't make enough money, you're on minimum wage. Even if you're making $15 an hour, if you're making $15 an hour, you're on minimum wage. And the assumption is you're definitely not saving money or donating money at that point. So we need a way to bring the industry up to a standard where people can actually make money. And it's not going to happen through the job seeker aspect of a typical career fair or anything else where people are looking to fill positions because those positions will be minimum wage at some scale. We know where the floor is, between $8 and $9, depending on where you live. The ceiling is about $25, and that's where we're trying to break. And the only way you're going to do that is by being self-empowered as a self-entity. Now, this doesn't mean you have to be a solo lone wolf. It just means you have to approach it as an entrepreneur, not a job seeker. I see this firsthand. Who are the real entrepreneurs out there? Who are they? Are the entrepreneurs this 22, 23-year-old kid coming out of college with a button-up shirt but loosened at the top, sweating at the brow as he's beating the street trying to raise money for his cool hip idea? Sure, but that's not the majority of entrepreneur. And that's not the entrepreneur in the sense of what we're looking at, where it comes from within your soul to you do it to survive. Entrepreneurship is not a way of life. If you're talking to somebody and they're giving you I don't know, entrepreneurship, you have a lot of risk there and there's a lot of that, right? They're not entrepreneurs, so they don't understand. So there's no point in having that conversation. An entrepreneur is one that does, right? My wife is an entrepreneur, not because she grew up saying, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to be a self-employed individual. She's an entrepreneur by what I believe to be the biggest base of entrepreneurs: immigrants. My wife is a Mexican immigrant herself. She was a nurse, the equivalent of an RN in Mexico. And when we moved here to the United States around late 2010, the process of transferring a license, tedious and long, but requires some English skills, at least in the state of Colorado. And that whole process of having her re-enroll in community college to start taking English classes and biology classes and classes where she sits in a normal, everyday college classroom, writes papers, gives speeches, listens to lectures, just like every other kid, is how for the last 3 years we have advanced her from the point of, only because I know she doesn't listen to the show, no marginal English skills, to now where she's becoming fairly fluent. She's passing high-level exams. She's 3 years in at the community college, not because she needs the credit, because she's practicing her English. This summer, she's going to be taking her nursing exam. All her paperwork have been transferred from the university down there in Mexico where we came from. The license is going to be transferred, and she's going to become a nurse here in the U.S. But for the last 5 years that we've been living here, she's been an entrepreneur because she could not get a job. She could barely say hello. She didn't have her citizenship. She just barely got it last year. She couldn't get a job. So what did she do? She did what every other immigrant does. She started cleaning houses and childcare. She did that for a year or so. And then we built it up. And we went through all the same steps that I've been telling you to do. We got her incorporated as a business. We've niched in on a specific skill. We chose food. And over the last 4 some years, we've been successfully running a catering business from home as her business, which has supported our income almost 50%, all because her inability to get a job forced her to be an entrepreneur. Now take that in consideration with the 23-year-old new graduate coming out of school, parents sitting back in suburbia, still with the garage intact where young Timmy worked his first computer company out of. Imagine that, right? working out of the garage, that concept. Imagine that concept when you're living in a 2,000 person complex apartment building that's federally funded. There is no grocery stores, no general stores other than maybe liquor stores and check cashing stores all around you. You're living in a dangerous territory and somebody tells you to start a business out of your garage. So these are two different entrepreneurs, and I have the luxury of experiencing both of them and observing them and seeing people from all different ways of life come up. And this is what we're going to focus on. And these are the interesting people that you pluck out of society that become those entrepreneurs that change society, not because they wanted to, but because they had no other choice. I'm feeling very inspired this week with entrepreneurship, especially with women in entrepreneurship, talking about my wife, also talking about a new show, two very inspirational women that I'm going to introduce you to over the next few weeks. Cannastasia, you're going to meet today on the show. You're going to meet her and her story. Anastasia, Danielle. Anastasia, no. Cannastasia. I'm just going to call her Cannastasia. You figure it out what to call her. Her and Lorna, I can't say their names. Lorna. Her and Lorna Shannon are going to start a new podcast right here under the Cannabis Community Project called the Women of Weed Street Wow Podcast, the Wow Podcast. They're going to each be hosts, their own individual hosts, maybe together, maybe separate. They're going to be doing segments exclusively within their own theme and their own vision of creativity. I am going to produce it for them. I'm going to help them edit. I'm going to help them bring this show to you right here through the Cannabis Community Project. So this is a very exciting week for me. There's a lot going on. I have 3 businesses in the works. I have now potentially 3 podcasts in the works. There is so much happening this summer. I can't wait to see where I am by the time Christmas time rolls around and tell you all about it. And I want you to be part of it. So please join me on this journey and you can be part of it. Just like Cannastasia and Lauren are going to be part of it. So listen to Cannastasia this week, talk about her story from digital marketer to MMJ patient. Her story is very interesting, a little sad, a little funny, and definitely inspirational and where you can go if you put your mind to it. There's so much passion that goes around with all these people emerging from this industry that it really raises the bar for the rest of us, right? Whatever you thought you were doing is not enough. Because when you meet somebody like Cannastasia, you realize you have to work even harder or they're going to come up behind you and take over. That's what the success story will be, is that we're going to have new podcasts coming out on this network and they're going to be great shows. So hang out, listen in, learn all about her and how it came about this week. This is a very interesting story. Before we do that, let's quickly jump back to last week's short-term memory relapse. Do you remember that show? Do you remember who we were talking to? Abe from THC Legal Group. Now, was that an interesting company, an interesting individual? He really had all the information about the legal aspects of patents and intellectual property and how that plays into this industry. Definitely going to be a very, very big issue. So here we go. Let's quickly listen to that. If you didn't hear the show, go back and listen, like, share, comment. Let your friends know what you're listening to. This is not your stoner show, but you might want to be stoned just to get through it. Here we go. Grind and burn.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Abe Cohn. I'm the COO of THC Legal Group. We're a legal practice devoted to the cannabis industry, and of course we bring a unique expertise in that we're focused specifically on protecting intellectual property. So that includes patents, trademark, copyright, and other licensing agreements. We're located in Cleveland, Ohio, but, interestingly, with intellectual property, much of the law is governed federally instead of on a state-to-state level. So many of our clients are located throughout the country and indeed throughout the world. And unlike other sorts of law, which is to a large extent developed based on templates and pre-made forms, patents are quite literally written from scratch. So you really have to know what you're doing, and it's not something that you can download from the internet and just kind of plug and play with your own pieces of information. So the way it works is, there are, of course, two bodies of law governing the United States, or people in the United States. There's federal law, which transcends state law. Everyone is affected by it. And then there is, of course, state law. And traditionally, when lawyers practice law, they take a bar or a test for the given state that they want to practice in. And that is the state that they are allowed to practice law in. Depending on what your idea is and the nature of the business that you're starting, of course, we would, like we mentioned before, there are different kind of avenues of protection that you might want in the intellectual property space. But I think one of the most important things on a very practical level, without a doubt, one of the most important things is trademark protection. So you're starting a brand name, you're starting a new company, you want to get a trademark on your name, a tagline, on your logo, your graphic. It's just super important. And that's one of the things to recommend. It's not very expensive, and given the protection that you get, it's entirely worth it.
It's an asset, right?
It's an asset. It is very much so a piece of property that you want to own. I can say this with 100% certainty that people investing in your business, or at least reputable firms, venture capitalist firms, companies, they will not give you money unless you can show that you own the thing, whatever that thing is. Protect yourself at all times.
There you go.
That's what we want to urge people to do.
Excellent. So if people contact you, can they make you sign an NDA?
Many people want us to sign NDAs, and we are happy to do so. And people can reach us at our website, of course, at www.thclegalgroup.com. Our Twitter handle is THC_group. And then people, can just contact my personal email address. It's just abe@thclegalgroup.com.
Very good. Thank you very much. Very informational. And even a little inspirational, actually.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, we love this industry. We love talking about
Hey, Cannapreneurs! Are you inspired by the stories you hear? Maybe it's time for you to tell your own story. Do it right here on this show. CannabisCommunityProject.com or email me personally. Brainstorm at CannabisCommunityProject.com.
Hey, Cannapreneurs! This week's show is sponsored by Dairy Berry's Recording Studio.
Get the show via the podcast app through iTunes, and we listen to it on our phones mostly in the garden. We listen to the show as soon as it comes out. Like that little red dot pops up on Saturdays usually. We usually listen to the show on Saturday. If we can't, we'll listen to it on Sunday. As soon as we can. The next time we're gardening, we listen to it. And it's almost like you're hanging out in the garden with us, getting that plant therapy that we were talking about earlier. So you don't even know it, and you're getting it from the other side of the country, which is pretty neat. And you're giving our plants therapy too. They know your voice. They're talking to you. Same as all the other podcasts that we listen to in the garden. All of our plants are familiar with everybody's voices. It's like they have their own little community of friends and family that they visit with. Sometimes we listen to it in the car, like if we don't have the opportunity to listen to it in the garden. But mostly it's gardening time for the Cannabis Community Project.
Let's get you high, and then we'll catch up. We'll chat.
Sounds nice.
So there you go.
Claim coke dealers, but y'all call it drinkers. Y'all more square than 5 fingers, now smack yourself. Y'all kids to me in this industry, I might grab my belt. Wilson Masters of following, gave me your pass. I'm following gas, spitting explosions. Your Sprite is flat like your woman's chest. My wine is white, my flight is here, leads to the mess. Need no sleep, I don't even need a bed. No soda for this goose, got the juice. I admit it, I'm very somehow I'm still blessed. Now play that shit in reverse.
I mean, like in most things, I don't agree with the premise that being high affects much of your driving or your abilities or your skills like being drunk does.
I didn't think that either until I was putting together a baby thing. What do you call those? The baby? I'm high right now. I can't even say it. The things that the baby sleep in.
A crib?
The crib. Yeah. Like I completely smoked. I thought it was gonna be genius, and I completely forgot screws and everything, and it was definitely not baby safe.
I will say this: being high affects my ability to do a tedious task that I don't care about. If it's a tedious task that I care about, like when I'm doing my show, and you're doing minute by minute type editing and mixing stuff, that's very tedious, but you get into it, and somehow being high helps. But putting together IKEA furniture, doing stuff that you don't really want to do.
Swinging, snapping, swinging, snapping, swinging, snapping, swinging, snapping, two-stepping, dabbing, two-stepping, dabbing, two-stepping, dabbing, swinging, snapping, two-stepping in this competition with my gym, but it got a
We can talk about digital marketing, but there's probably more interesting things to talk about.
Absolutely.
Unless you can make it a extremely interesting topic.
I can.
I have no problem talking about marketing. I love talking about marketing.
Marketers love talking about marketing too, but I'm trying to branch out, give my brand a wider scope.
Let's do this.
My name is Cannastasia Briggs, and I'm relatively new to the cannabis industry. I came to the industry 4 months ago. My background is in marketing, and I have been doing that for 5 years with the focus on digital marketing. Before joining the cannabis industry, I was a social media manager for a tech company, but then I went to the Women Grow Summit and never really looked back. I decided I wanted to work in cannabis because there's so much more I can do with all the passions I have in cannabis.
And that's your actual name?
Anastasia, yeah.
Okay.
And
I've been saying Anastasia like you're...
I've gotten everything. I've been called Anesthesia, Anastasia.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The Mickey Mouse one is
It's interesting.
I thought that was like a moniker you're using as a
but my business, my digital
professional.
marketing business is Cannastasia.
Oh, okay. Where are you from? What part of the country did you say?
St. Louis.
St. Louis.
Originally. So
Okay.
I am born and raised in the Midwest and moved out to Colorado a year and a half ago.
Well, it's like my name. People never quite know how to pronounce it one way or the other.
Exactly. Yeah, I really.
When did you say you came here? 5 years ago?
Actually, only a year and a half ago.
A year and a half ago. 5 years ago, you started in the marketing field. A year and a half ago, came to Colorado.
Yes. I had broken my back 2 years ago, and while I was going through the therapy and medication for it, I realized that I couldn't rely on pharmaceuticals and started to use marijuana exclusively for pain management. And then I messed up a batch of tincture and was like, I'm going to blow up my house if I keep trying to do this. Freak accident. Someone dropped me on a staircase, not down the stairs, but it was during an exercise activity. I was dropped and hit the back of a staircase and cracked my iliac.
Are you doing a trust fall?
No, but I think it would be funnier if I was, because I definitely wasn't able to trust that person, come to find out, if they're going to drop me. But
So
my ex-boyfriend broke my back on accident. It wasn't awesome. But yeah, freak accident, broke my back in
Like
5
paralyzed?
places. I was predicted to be able to walk fully functional. It would take a year just because of the amount of damage and nerve damage that I had to my sciatic nerve. Walking was just hard in general. And so I was able to move around. I wasn't stuck in a wheelchair or anything, but I was bedridden for 2 months. And then I was able to start moving around and sitting up for after two months. And then I actually overdid it and herniated discs because my back wasn't strong enough. And so it was just this continuous cycle. I went into one of the deepest depressions of my life. I wasn't able to do anything. I'm a really active person, and being told that I can't move normally and being restricted to a bed did things to my mind and to my body that I thought I could never reverse. But then bring along my good friend Mary Jane and getting off of Vicodin, and actually they put me on Tramadol. It changed my mood. It was putting a cloud over me, and then marijuana was able to lift my spirits up, and then I was able to get off of medication altogether and start to use a cannabis regimen, which I use to this day. I use tinctures, topicals, edibles, and good old flower. A lot of concentrates.
And you're walking, so how
I'm
much...
walking and I'm running and I'm lifting, and I can do anything now. I climbed for the first time a few months ago, which is something that I hadn't done since I broke my back. When you go through something that essentially confines you to a bed, your morale sinks to a new low. And finding the strength to get back up and do new things has almost given me a refresher to my confidence, because it's like, wow, I appreciate being able to do things that I could have done easily before, but now that I have restrictions and boundaries that I'm pushing and conquering, it gives me a new satisfaction to life. And I'm very grateful that I've been able to use the resources here in Colorado legally without having to worry about the repercussions.
There's a lot there, and I don't want to get real deep on it, because I just want to generally kind of learn about your motivation of how you got from where you were to where you are now. So you went from St. Louis, recovering, and realized Colorado was just a better place for a medical standpoint for your health.
Exactly. I smoked my first joint when I was 18 and never looked back. I loved it. I actually gave up. I know, but it just was the way that it worked out. I was going to college and I decided that I wanted to try it, and I never really liked alcohol that much. I like to be in control. And so when I smoked my first joint, it was my friend's brother was in from college, and it was great weed for what we had like at the time. I never really looked back, and I started to focus on, I just became an advocate immediately, like instantly. And I think that it was because of this door that had opened in my mind that I had never seen before, because sometimes when you light up and you're having a bad day, like you can deal with things perfectly on my own. I don't need marijuana. I would by no means say that I'm too strict with my regimen. I use it for pain management, but I don't light up a joint at 420 every day. However, I am able to see the benefits that it gives me to my health and my mental state, and I was able to see that immediately with my first experience with it. And so immediately I started to research what marijuana does to your mind. And then the best things was like I was learning not so great things because of all the propaganda that we were told through DARE. And then I started to read things like the Grower's Bible and all these different things. Even though I wasn't interested in growing, I just was getting into college and starting to research things on my own. You know, Google was really coming to light at that time. And so it was really great to learn on my own. But then I come here and I'm given resources that I wish that everybody had to learn about marijuana. The amount that I have learned in the last year and a half it blows my mind. And it's second nature to just speak to it. So I had all this passion, and, you know, I was a Canna advocate, and I never considered switching my career, which is crazy when I sat down and thought about it one day, because I was working in marketing and I was happy to be in Colorado, but I wasn't fulfilled. And so I just am such a passionate person, and I had all of these passions. And then my now business partner actually came to stay with me and was going to a Women Grow conference. And I was like, that sounds really interesting. I took off work, went with her. I learned so much in those few days that I was like, I'm going to make the switch. And so changed my career path. I still do digital marketing, but I do it with a focus for cannabis brands. And now I'm the co-chair of sponsorship for Women Grow in Denver. So I am able to apply my other talents, like gaining sponsorship, event planning, networking in general is something that I excel in. I'm able to do that every single week with Women Grow. And so it's really easy. Cannabis is such an easy industry to get into if you try, really. Like, all you have to do is have passion. You need to have a vision as far as what you're wanting to accomplish in the world, and be open to the fact that marijuana might help you get there. Like, if you want to change the world, think of it from a different angle. Like, I would love to make the world a better place for women. I want us to be more confident, and I want there to be more empowerment within females. And so I am focusing on how I can do that with marijuana and how that could be a platform for me. So getting into the marijuana industry is something that you really, you have to want to do it, but it's easy if you have passion, is what I guess I'm trying to get at.
Well, I'm glad you said what you said about your business transition, because that is the business model for how I've told people to do it, how I've done it myself, and how you're exactly saying you did it. Is the model is take whatever you want to do or were doing before and just put the word cannabis in front of it. You don't have to get in the dispensary business to be in the cannabis industry. The dispensary business is a business just like any other business. So if you want to be in this industry, take what you were doing before, or take what you want to do and put the word cannabis in front of it, and now you're in the industry.
Exactly.
Per se, you know.
And something that I would say, so that's exactly what I'm doing. I would just add in, don't be afraid to follow passions, because in an industry this new and fresh and thriving, don't be afraid to try that thing that you were considering but never did, because maybe in the traditional landscape of your career, it was too risky, or it may not have made sense with your background. I started my digital marketing company, Cannastasia, immediately. And it's funny, I just mispronounced it, Cannastasia. So I started it immediately and started taking on clients right away because I wanted to get experience in marketing for cannabis brands. And so that's great. And I love it. But I also am good at other things. And so I realized that I was going to be going down a slippery slope if I only focused my efforts towards digital marketing, which I was doing before. And now I get to market with cannabis, but it's still doing a similar job. And so now I'm expanding into the customer experience background that I have and how to make experiences more memorable and how to personalize an event, or just even if somebody is going to a dispensary, how to personalize these experiences so that the person comes back, and also just holistic experiences so that they're getting their mind, their body, everything charged from this amazing plant, because there are so many things. I go to Twisted Sister Yoga every week. I love their Ganja yoga class on Fridays, and being able to find how cannabis fits into your life with your exercise routine. I mean, you can even say family time, because I light up with my sister and we hash out through the problems of the world. You know, there's so many different layers of life that this wonderful plant fits into seamlessly. And so if you make it a part of your career, there's just so much that you can do with it. And it really is, just gives me goosebumps. I love it.
Well, you strike me as the type of person that even if it weren't cannabis, you would still be down that same path. You seem like the drive is within you. Cannabis may be your kind of a reason of why you're focusing all that drive in one point, but honestly, you could probably sell mop handles and have the same
Are you calling me Joy?
Well, that's a good thing,
yes.
right?
Oh, absolutely. She's a huge influence. She was an incredible woman.
I mean, you want to be that kind of person. I mean, nobody wants to be somebody who has no lust for life, or who only wants to do one thing, and because they can't do it, they're angry and disgruntled with the rest of life. You want to be the kind of person who, if you're selling mop handles, woohoo, exactly. This is what we do. And
I think it's easy to find that passion. Something that I love, I'm a Beatles fan, but something that always stuck out to me is a John Lennon quote, and I'm paraphrasing here, but basically his assignment was to create a project about what he wanted to be when he grew up, and he basically just said, all I want to be is happy. And the teacher told him that he didn't get the project, but he told her that she didn't understand life, because the purpose of life is to be happy. And for me, right now, building out my businesses, the thing that I've been focusing on the most is how the most sustainable thing for me, and that means happiness. So the thing that gets me up every day that I believe in, and that is cannabis, and that is the benefits of cannabis for me. So I was able to find my key to happiness just by trying something new, and by not being afraid to say, hey, mom and dad, like, remember how you guys always called me a pothead? Well, like, now you can call me a professional pothead, because I'm joining the cannabis industry, and you need to tell all of your friends about it, because I'm freaking proud. And now my dad, who staunch Republican, I never thought, by the way, he's not voting for Trump, but, you know, was a staunch Republican. I never thought that he would be so accepting and proud of me for taking these chances that have paid off.
How could they have possibly have called you a pothead if you didn't smoke until you were 18?
Well, it's because when I did start smoking, I was like, have you guys tried this?
Oh, you got into it, and then all of a sudden you were the evangelist.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I was a changed person. There are so many negative stereotypes out there, and I was like, well, I mean, I don't really fit into any of those, because I'm not really a hippie looking. I mean, my morals are probably hippie-ish. I'd say I'm definitely a peaceful person, love my yoga, wear my malas every day, but I'm not your stereotypical cannabis smoker. I think it actually surprises a lot of people that I work in the industry. It floored most people, actually, because they didn't know unless they were able to talk to me, because I wasn't able to be so broad and like open about it before, because I was living in a prohibition state. I lived in Indianapolis, actually, before moving here from St. Louis. I went to Indiana and then here, and that was a prohibition state, and it's very, very, I mean, you get caught with a joint and you're going to jail for 10 years. Yeah. And so I was never able to be vocal about it. And now I'm just like, anybody will listen. I'm like, let me your ears and let me sing the sweet, sweet song of marijuana.
Please. Sing
yeah, it's great now to be able to be so open about it, especially on Facebook.
What are you doing that takes all that passion, and how do you translate that into an actual business? Like, what's the end result product of transitioning that passion to a business owner and helping them move forward and somehow publicize that passion? And what do you consider the product you're selling? Is it your passion, your knowledge, technical
I would say it's
expertise?
a mixture of everything because I am an expert on digital marketing. So for Cannastasia, a lot of the clients that I drive, I would say clients that are attracted to me are there because of my expertise, but it's also my passion. I would say my passion is my selling point for every job I've ever had. And I am an empathetic person. And so I like to connect with people. I want this personalized experience. So I want to, for them, I guess the end result would be feeling great about what they just purchased, whether I'm B2C or if I'm doing some B2B. I want the brand to be able to be so confident in their digital marketing strategy that they are represented, their voices represented the same across digital marketing as it is in the store. So the same in-store and digital experience is the perfect end result, I would say, for cannabis brands who are focusing on, changing their marketing plan, because like people want to see what makes me different as a digital marketer, customers want to see what makes brands different, obviously. And so digital marketing is a great platform to do that through. It's just difficult for brands in the cannabis industry because it's not federally legal and there are loopholes and little creative hacks.
So how do you break through that? I mean, how do you break through that? Because even if you have an awesome product, how do you get somebody's attention when they're not really wanting to listen, or they don't think they need to listen, or they're scared to listen? What are you doing?
Well, you should assume that no one ever listens and that no one wants to listen because I'm a millennial.
Now.
Exactly. So millennials don't want to be sold to. I think that actually all of us are sick of being sold to. So stop selling to people. Create experiences for them. Invite them along to something interesting, not just into your store. Invite them into what they will feel like after going into your store. What the end result will be is something intangible because it's going to be inside them as well as the product that they have. You want to be memorable. And there are a lot of ways that brands can do that. There's social campaigns. There are, guerrilla advertising attempts. There are ads on digital marketing that have a weird photo or maybe something a little promiscuous that catches your eye. There's tons of different ways that brands do it. It's all about the wording that we have an issue with now with SEO in digital marketing. And so we can't get searched for the phrases that we want to get searched for necessarily. And that may change. Google is always changing, but you have to get creative in the cannabis industry, which is probably why I was so drawn to it and wanted to bring digital marketing into it, more so with my flavor, because it's a challenge and I love a good challenge.
Are you working by yourself?
I am.
And what is the next 12-month projection? Where do you want to take it? Do you actually want to build a team? Do you want to keep going solo?
I would like to build a team, a small team, so that I would be able to expand beyond consulting, because right now I've had to deny some jobs because of manpower. I don't have the full resources at the capacity that I'm operating to be able to create content calendars for everybody who needs them. And so I've just been focusing on consulting because I would rather teach brands how to do that themselves when I don't have the team that's capable right now, because it's just me. So I'm focusing on consulting work and teaching people how to do it themselves and, just teaching them what to expect. For Cannastasia, it would be great to build out a team. But right now I'm working on a second business called Aquarius Experiences, which is a consulting group as well. But we are targeting brands nationally in legalized states that are wanting to become 420 friendly. So hotels, restaurants, coffee shops. There's a lot that goes into that. And we want to be there to hold their hand throughout it with our expertise in cannabis, and also a few elements that you wouldn't expect, like interior design, menu selection, on top of marketing, how you're going to advertise, where to hit, how to partner with the right people, and there's so much that goes into it that we're just going to be holistic consulting for everyone wanting to go 420 friendly, really.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And I do have a team for that, which I'm lucky for, but we are actually going to present that at the Imperius conference next week in Seattle it's a cannabis tech conference, and we're really excited about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So how do you walk two roads at one time?
Well, I've never been a person I have ADD, so I always have to have my focus set on so many different things. I have my vision set pretty broad, and on top of these two businesses, I have a nonprofit that I want to build, and I'm working with Women Grow. That's not the challenge for me necessarily, actually, is keeping my focus on two different things, because it's kind of like a balance, like a scale scales thing because I just will take less clients. Like right now, I have only a few clients for Cannastasia that I'm actively working with because I'm focusing on Aquarius experiences.
Well, I guess that is the question.
How do I do it?
Not necessarily how, because, I mean, you're rationalizing how you're doing it.
Yeah.
Can it be done? I mean, are you a believer in this idea of trying to do too many things at once?
Absolutely.
Makes none of them successful. I mean, if you try to walk too many roads at once, you end up going nowhere kind of thing.
I think that that's a fear that I have, that I would walk different directions with each of them and not be able to follow along with one or the other or lose both. But fear doesn't rule the way that I live. I live simply in my personal life. I keep people in my life who want to be there, and my focus is purely on my business, which might seem so drab and lame, but I love my job because I work in the cannabis industry. So I get to be around the best people all the time. So when I say that my life is kind of work, it's not in a bad way. It's just that I'm applying my passions around the clock, and that's beautiful. I wish that everybody could do that. So I'm not scared that I'm going to lose control because I just know the direction.
Well, I didn't say lose control.
Right. Well,
you said control.
Yes. Well,
and when you said it, you had a little glare in your eye, too.
And my eyes, actually, they glazed over, and I just started teething at the microphone. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not so much worried about that because I have everything else in order. But throw in my dog getting sick, and then I'm like, I can't do anything. This is terrible.
Do you think fear is a relevant emotion?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you think it serves a purpose?
I do, kept in check. I think that love serves a purpose above fear. And that's like the two extremes, right? Like love versus fear. And so I just think that focusing on positive energy is the only way that it's possible. And that's the hardest thing to do. That's the biggest challenge, is just being positive and being okay with the fact that you have no idea if something is going to be okay, but perhaps lying to yourself and telling yourself it will be, because it's all in the mind, as George Harrison once said.
I love the accent. That was a great impersonation.
Thank you.
I also like the idea of love can conquer fear. I believe that in a sense. I mean, if your baby fell in the well, there would be fear of going down the well, but the love of saving your child would overcome that.
Yes, as Lassie proved.
Right? But at the same time, you don't want to disregard fear in the sense of, hey, I can jump down a well and, and then all of a sudden, 2 broken legs and now nobody's safe.
Something that I find a lot is that people will either fear too much and never do something, or they will not even believe in fear. And so they will just have blind faith that everything's going to be okay because they like weed and they want to get into the cannabis industry, but they're not considering the competitive market that it is in right now. And so there is failure in focusing on fear too much and also not enough. And there's a balance, but really it's about staying positive, but being smart, honestly, is just being smart. You can't trust everybody. You just have to have faith that you will be able to weed out the bad ones. No pun intended. But really it's about networking. So I think that fear can be reduced when you have a strong community, because you have people who have your back and you have your own back when you trust yourself and you follow your passions and your instincts.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of truth to that. And as somebody who also works alone, and a big part of my own business is I understand a lot of that personal fear. And, when you don't have a group that you're standing with, you make decisions differently than having 3 or 4 people kind of nod their heads at you and go, you're making the right move. When you're standing alone looking at the mirror, it's not always easy to know.
It's incredibly difficult to start businesses on your own. I find that I am questioning myself all the time and just sort of creating things out of thin air.
Well, that's the network, right? The support concept.
That's where it comes in, and I can't tell you how lucky I am to experience the support that I have. And all of it comes from me just completely being myself. When I worked in marketing for a tech company, I was never able to let people know how into cannabis and how much I knew about it and how fun it can be. And I just was never really able to open up that part of myself because I was always judged and worried that I would get fired for consuming. And so I finally feel like I'm in this industry where I can completely be myself. My friend Anne-Marie Doyle said this, and I've always loved it. She said she'd always felt like a black sheep. That's something that I always felt like too. But now we have our whole herd of black sheep. And it's just so fun because everybody has these unique quirks about them, but they're all completely themselves. And that's just so great because it's not like anyone's going to fire you in the cannabis industry for smoking weed unless you're doing it on the job, of course. But we don't have anything to fear because it's legalized here. So I'm really able to be myself. And I think that helps with fear. It brings my community together and it just makes life so much more satisfying.
So here's what I'd like to do.
Okay.
Because you have a lot to say, and I don't know if I can extract it all from you in this sitting.
Okay.
I think we should talk to you more. I think we should do it like you have your own segment.
Okay.
Or a segment with whoever you want type deal, but just something that's kind of your.
I would love that.
And I think you should talk about all these things you're talking about, even giving away the secrets as you're afraid to do.
Okay. If it'll give me clients.
But you're not afraid of fear, so
no.
Giving away the secrets shouldn't be too fearful.
Right.
But I think that's a good way to go because you got a lot to say, and I think people can learn from you. And I think you'd be a great contribution to kind of take some of that. You don't have to give it all away.
Yeah.
But just take some of it, and formulate it to a little 5-10 minute type thing.
Yeah, I would love that.
That we can piece together that people can listen to, get some inspiration, get some tips. So whatever it is, it'll be your thing.
Love that.
And then I will help you produce and edit it and, get it on the show and any help you want on that.
Thank you.
But I think we should do that, and I think we should do it like an official type thing.
Yeah.
Like give you a name and an official intro with an official intro music
awesome.
and have like a set outro and, have it be its own little thing so we can have it reoccurring.
I would love that.
And
I can promote on social media because that's my background. I can then promote the show as well.
Do you think you're here for any other reason?
But really, that could be amazing. I can be like the Women Grow Denver, do updates on events too.
I was just going to say, one of the things I was going to do was try to do a Women Grow a show, like a full long-form interview.
That's Anne Marie right there, and that's the chapter head.
Well, then we need to set that up.
Yeah.
But aside from that, then they can maybe use your segment as kind of the focal point for any announcements and stuff they want to funnel through that also. My goal is to really build this out into a podcast network, as I think we were talking about last time. What I would like to do is get a segment and unique, something that is in this show, but doesn't need to be about this show because the idea is to break it off and have it be its own independent show. Regardless of what I do with my show, I want you to format your segment in your own creative control, since control is what you want.
Yes. Control. Yeah.
I just get final edits.
Absolutely.
But it's mostly technical editing
absolutely.
stuff that I get final edit on. But other than that, I'd like you to have complete creative control and really utilize your network that I think you would have better access to than me individually trying to go out and meet all these people also.
Yeah.
Since you're talking about building networks, then we should do that, and we should do it effective immediately.
Yeah, let's do this.
So I need to get a sword so I can knight you.
Okay.
And then you'll have to draw blood.
Right.
But other than that...
I normally keep it in my purse, actually.
You bring your own blood.
Yeah.
Other than that,
BYOB.
I think we can do that, and I hope we can break it off into a whole separate show.
I would love that.
And then,
I'd love to bring comedy into it if you're open to that. I do
you got
stand-up.
jokes?
Yeah.
What do you got? You got knock-knock? What?
You got a little knock-knock? No, I have this cool little network. So I do stand-up occasionally, and then my friend Sean does it, and then our friend Ariel, and they're all canna advocates.
Okay.
So it'd be funny if you'd be open to maybe getting some.
Can you give me 10 seconds of just a bit or a joke? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but don't get nervous now.
I haven't done stand-up in a month.
Oh, you can stay seated.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, one of my
See, I'm already getting it rolling.
I'm like, oh, hey, guys, this one's on me. Get him off. Do you get it? The drink's on me. Get him off.
Okay. So no, don't count yourself. Think of it as comedy as something that people will either understand or learn to understand.
Yeah.
But don't knock yourself yet. Let me knock you. Don't knock yourself.
Perfect. That sounds great. That sounds like a really good relationship.
So what's the general premise of the comedy? Just cannabis stuff?
No.
Personal stuff?
Yeah, dating,
observational?
stupid dating stories. Some of it is the fact that I work in cannabis, and one of my jokes is kind of how did I do this one? But basically, I was saying that, my friend was saying this, and I was like, but then I just got off the couch, so I don't know what else she said. Basically saying that she was doing it in front of me. I'm rusty. I'm very rusty. I'll sharpen myself back up.
You were talking about black sheep or something?
Right. Well, I was just saying how there's...
You're a red sheep, right?
Yes.
You're
well,
very red
I actually
hair,
am
for those that don't
more
know.
of a rainbow sheep, actually. I'm considered a ginger. That is a label I have been given.
What's the technical difference?
Ginger's a lifestyle. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's... I think that what qualifies you as a ginger is if you just, disintegrate in the sun or, just burn to such a crisp that you're every single day.
Because you do a lot of interaction, I assume, going out to a lot of events. How many times a week do you have middle-aged men awkwardly hitting on you?
God, it's not something that I count because it's not something that I'm proud of, but it happens. The most annoying things is when I get hit on at Women Grow.
Yeah, God's a man, so he was getting ready to...
Right. He was like, hey, don't you get too empowered over there, little lady. Know your spot.
Down there on Earth, you can have your control, but...
but up here. Something that drew me to the cannabis industry is the fact that it is so new and it's an opportunity for women to make the market equal. 36% of executives in the cannabis industry are female. There's no reason why it shouldn't be 50. And so, that is great progress, but I'm always like, we're not finished here. We can make it more equal because there's just still such a gap between men and women. For me, I just find it annoying when my sexuality is brought into anything because even though I am in marketing, I would never use my physical attributes to sell something or to get business for that matter. Actually, I don't take on clients if they've hit on me. And I know that might seem weird, but it makes it difficult. And I just get annoyed when I get hit on at Women Grow because it's supposed to be the one place where my ideas are the only thing that matters because it's mostly women. But so many men have found out about it. And what they'll say is, oh, well, I'd be an idiot to pass up a meeting of all women. And it's like, I don't think that you're thinking this one through because if you keep saying sexist things, you're going to have a room full of empowered women against you. And that's not something I would wish on anybody.
Yeah, I don't think going into the, pardon the bad analogy, the bee's hive is the best place to be digging around for honey.
Is not. No, we have.
At least wait till the bees have left.
Exactly.
I don't know. I meet people all the time at networking events, and I always like to just think about, where does this person come from, and who are they, and what is their life all about in a general sense. And I imagine with your interaction and you're kind of out there causing hell, that you probably have a lot of very funny and great experiences.
Yeah,
you probably wrap into your comedy. And
a lot of them feed into that. I think that one of the best questions at these cannabis networking events is, where do you come from? Because no one started out in the cannabis industry. I think it would be very hard to find somebody who started their first job was in a grow.
Maybe in a couple years, right? You find a couple 18-year-olds who maybe their first job might be in a dispensary working minimum wage.
Wow, I wish my first job was at 18. So because it's so new, we don't have these lifelong experts, and there's more room for people to become experts. But there's always awesome stories that go along with why did you get into the industry? Some of them are better than others, of course, but there are some really cool ones.
That's half of the premise of my whole conversation with somebody is kind of how did you get from point A to point B? What happened to you along the way of that transition? What started it? What was the motivator, the catalyst, as I call it, in most people was because something happened in their life. They got sick, or somebody got sick, or somebody lost a job. There was something kind of major that disrupted life and forced people. And to me, that's how we're going to win the drug war, is by sharing information and lives with people and networking, getting people back to personally knowing somebody. That's how we're going to win the drug war. I think that's the only way we're going to win it, is by having somebody personally know somebody in a situation who either started a cannabis business, became successful as a great upstanding citizen in society, or somebody got sick and used cannabis to alleviate themselves. Either or, they're going to find their path to how they got in the industry.
Yeah, I think that there's reasons why, there's so many reasons that there's an interesting way for each. So there's value in each reason as to why somebody joined this. And it doesn't always have to be these medical stories to matter. I think that I consider myself a cannabis refugee because I did move to somewhere where it was legal and I could obtain these things without having to, put myself in a weird situation just so I could procure my medicine because my normal dealer is out. And so I don't necessarily broadcast that, but I do identify with it as a refugee. And I think that there's so many reasons that people are drawn to this that why not just open up the discussion?
When you were 12 years old, what did you want to be?
An actress.
When you were 9, what did you want to be?
Gosh, probably Amelia Earhart.
Okay.
I've always
Okay.
had these weird. I really wanted to be a queen, and I'm really bummed out that I'm not. But
Because we live in a country where they don't exist,
Right.
or because the actual role itself
it's
is
kind
a
of nothing
non-attainable
now.
role.
Right. And so, no royal blood in this lifetime. But that's what I thought was possible as a kid. I don't know. I had big dreams.
Well, define royal, right? Maybe you can come with a different definition of royal blood.
True. I don't know. But yeah, I've always loved Queen Elizabeth I, so I pretty much thought I could emulate into being her. I could just go back in time and just jump right in her skin. But I'm pretty glad I can't now that I learn about the real history behind her.
Oh, I don't know any real history, so don't shatter
bring that in here.
Don't shatter my,
She's awesome.
When you left high school, where did you think you were going in life?
I actually have a background in fashion, and I wanted to head to FIT, but my parents weren't.
FIT would be
Fashion Institute of Technology.
Okay.
But my parents weren't very open to sending me out of state for college undergrad. And so they would help me pay for it as long as I stayed in state. So I stayed in state, and which is very, very glad, because I began my fashion certificate and decided that I wanted nothing to do with the fashion industry because it's the most wasteful industry, and it's bullshit.
You were probably drawn to it because of the creative aspect.
I was drawn to it. It's chaos.
But your
it's
personal, moral, and
creativity.
ethical
Yes.
principles.
The fact that Louis
probably turned you
Vuitton
off.
burns millions of dollars worth of product each year just so that they won't have to mark it down disgusted me. And I was just turned off by so many things that were never revealed to me before college. So I have a background in events. I don't actively seek clients to plan their events. It's just something that is in my background that helps a lot, because being an event planner is the second highest stressful job in the world. And it has taught me so many skills. I mean, it's made me so much more detail oriented. I do help a lot with events with Women Grow, and with random little things with friends, like some impromptu or some special kind of yoga class like Ganja yoga, or, just little parties. But we have a good network of event spaces that we can use.
I think that's going to be the main way that businesses are going to shift their advertising and marketing is going to be towards events and person-to-person type stuff.
What we're doing isn't working. The ads don't work. You have to get people in a room now. And it's because we've become oversaturated with digital. I have been on my phone. We're all constantly on our phone. And what's happened is we've just become desensitized to ads, to advertising, to marketing. It's not working. And we're getting back to our roots. It's about personal connections.
Yeah.
And if you can develop a repertoire, you can connect with somebody as a representative of a business personally online, that's amazing. It's just very difficult to do. And I think that as customers, we have a distrust of brands. The cannabis industry is a little bit different, but it's so competitive here. It's traditional marketing works in Denver because of the Westward for cannabis brands, because people go there and it's a resource for the best deals in town. And so there's not this brand loyalty that there once was, and there could be.
I would like to define works. What are we saying?
What works? I guess that if you're going by the numbers, how people are finding out about your business, I would say that not many cannabis businesses, dispensaries in particular, and brands dealing with the flowers, I wouldn't say many of them are found online.
Yeah, the Westward definitely de facto monopolized themselves as the cannabis newspaper, kind of out of just de facto. I mean, nobody else was doing it, and they were kind of, already in that world. So it was just kind of a natural transition.
Exactly.
But the lack of outlets is kind of what you're pointing towards.
Right. And what I would say is what I define works in marketing would be the traffic driven from, whether it's from a digital platform, like where they found your website, where they found your brand. So obviously clientele, the more people know about your brand, the more people are going to stop in. And if you're doing a good job, they'll stay. So that's how I would define marketing working.
I've known quite a few people who have advertised with the Westward, and it's a real double-edged sword in the sense of they feel obligated to do it because they don't know what else to do. But I can't think of anybody who pops to mind who is telling me overwhelming success stories.
Exactly.
So you're kind of trapped.
But that's why it's so important to offer exceptional customer experiences once they are in the store. Because yes, maybe they are going for a sale, but that's not all they have to leave with. So you can upsell, but it's also just about what I find most perturbing when I go into dispensaries is the lack of knowledge on strains. I'm using it for medical purposes, so I have my red card, but I would like to be able to go into a recreational dispensary and the staff know, and as well as medical dispensaries. I've been into also that don't really know what their strains do. It shouldn't be up to me to go to an app to tell you what your weed does. And so when the employees are able to tell me what each thing does, or tell me why this edible is different than this one, or why a tincture is going to affect you differently, that's invaluable. But if they have a great personality, I mean, bang up, I'm going to be there next week too, without my coupon, because I'm not even going to worry about finding them in the Westward, because it's about brand loyalty.
Right. Once you found your brand of steak, you're coming back.
Exactly.
That's the restaurant.
When I stop into Dank, before they even check me into the computer, they say, "What's up, Cannastasia?" Yeah. And it's because I've gone there multiple times, because I love the products and I also think that it's reasonable. But them knowing my name before they even see me in the system, like, that's cool. And the funny thing is, being a red card holder, they see my name when I check in. I'm like, say, "Hey, Cannastasia." Right. That means a lot to me, because maybe I'll forget that you have it on the computer right in front of you.
To be fair, it's a unique name.
It's hard.
Easy to remember.
I guess that what I'm getting at is,
you're an easily rememberable person. I mean, it's not. I don't know if everybody who comes to the door, they're rattling off their name.
Right. But I just think that the dedication to greeting the person in a way that makes them feel good. Yes. Or I've gone to a dispensary and somebody remembered that I don't like a strain. That was awesome. I forgot that I don't like green chocolate. Like,
I'm highly sensitive to attitude. I'm a very thin-skinned person when it comes to attitude. I'm not one of these people who has a thick skin in the sense of, if somebody's giving me attitude, it just rolls off or it doesn't affect me.
No one should have to be like that
Somebody
either.
looks at me twice and I'm like, I'm freaking out, and I'm double thinking it, going through every move, and then I'm starting to get angry and retaliative. You know, it's like, I'm very sensitive, and my problem with dispensaries is mostly an attitude-based issue.
Yes.
From a consumer issue, you and I are looking for two different things. I'm looking for a retail experience. I want to go in. I would prefer not even to make eye contact. I want to buy my product, and I want to get out. What you're looking for is a different experience, which is fine. Yeah. It's just not an experience I'm looking for, even though I am a medical patient.
So you want the pharmacy effect.
I would prefer to have it not even be a pharmacist. Let me just grab it off the shelf, do a self-checkout, and get out the door. And, when I go to King Soopers, I'm in the self-checkout line.
Okay, I can see that.
I'm not looking for interaction. I'm not looking for people to guide me through anything, because that's the experience I'm looking for. Problem is you can't accommodate both of our experiences in one place, because how do you accommodate somebody who just wants a retail experience and somebody who needs a personal interaction with somebody who's walking them through, their weekly treatment? How do you provide that in the same place?
So it goes down to the fact, like, you would be able to get that experience if I was able to provide the same digital marketing strategy and collect the same data that I was able to collect from the tech company, so customers in the tech company. I can't find out much about you and your weed habits online because it's not federally legal. But if I knew that you were straight to the point, like online shopping and checking out yourself, not even going into the store to check things, like, there are things that you can find out, and there are algorithms that you can build that you can identify your customer and, personalize the experience. Because the fact is, because I like to talk, like, not everybody wants the same customer experience. And that's why this personalization is so pivotal. But it's not going to happen until it's federally legal. I mean, it is harder to get analytics for a cannabis brand because of the keywords. You just can't be ranked for some of them. It's harder to get the analytics on a cannabis brand than it is Apple. We don't have the data yet to be able to provide the experiences that people deserve.
Right.
And I think that it's hard for brands, dispensaries especially, to find their voice necessarily, because so many are focusing on attracting rec. And when I think of rec, and this isn't everything, but when I think of rec, I think of a lot of tourism, because we're legalized, and some of the travelers that I deal with, they just want to go to a dispensary. They don't care which one, or they look at the Westward, because I tell them to, because I'm nice like that. And then they go into a dispensary there, or I'll give them a suggestion. I'll tell them to go to the Jank. But, brands are focusing on only getting recreational clients versus, like, retaining clients. I think that that's where everybody just starts to sound the same, because they're all just trying to sound like they have the best deal.
You want your tribe. You want to build your base. You want those fans, right?
But I think that what brands need to realize is that for a customer, value isn't just how much money they're saving or spending, for that matter. Value comes from what is offered, like the selection, and it also has to do with, how they're being treated.
Yes.
Attitude is rampant in millennial customer service, like, representatives. It is. unfortunately, we have a lot of millennials with attitudes working in the industry, and it gives people, like, it turns them away from certain dispensaries because the person appeared to not want to be talking to them.
Yeah.
And that's a real bummer. And it's not the way that it should be. That should be monitored a lot tougher.
And to me, I interpret attitude in probably ways that some people would overlook. You know, if I walk into a place and the guy doesn't smile, I'm already a little just like, what's up, dude?
Your
job is to smile at me. I'm the customer.
You want to feel welcome.
I don't care what you are personally going through. Your job is to smile. Number two, when I say, hey, what's good today? Don't just turn around and point at the board. To me, that's peaking the attitude levels even more.
It is.
It's
Do you want to be here? Like, I came here because I want to be here. Do you want to be here? You're the one working here.
Right. Because if that's the experience I'm getting, just put it on a shelf, let me grab it, run it through the barcode, and I'll be out the door.
And I see what you're saying completely for that. And it's sad that you've experienced things that make you just want to do that because you just don't want to deal with people.
In general, I mean, I'm an Amazon shopper, not a go to the store shop. So in general, I don't want a lot of consumer interaction in my retail experience. When I buy, I put a lot of thought into my purchase. So when I show up, I'm there to buy. I'm not a person who goes to a place to consider buying. And when I show up somewhere, I'm ready to buy. The only person who's going to mess that up is the salesperson talking to me. But that's me. And a good salesperson has to be able to judge each person and know why are they there, do the whole qualification, the whole deal. So when they see somebody who's there at a dispensary who just, what do you got? What's good? I'm looking for this. Give it to me with a half smile out the door, blah, blah, blah. And I'm happy. I don't need you to consult with me. I don't need you to do anything else. But I need some pretty basic customer service.
Right. And I think that it should go beyond basics in this industry because we could create our own level of customer satisfaction because the products are so great. But the thing is, with these recreational brands, like you could get somebody from out of state who has never smoked before. And the problem is if they're just being shoved out the door and given a product, they could end up with a bad experience. Right. And that's not what we want, especially as somebody in this industry. Like, I don't like it when people get too high from edibles. I feel bad and I feel like it was avoidable.
It's not a pleasurable experience.
It's not good for them. It's not good for their friends because, it's not good for the industry. There's not enough information being shared with people and we want it to be the best experience that there is. We're trying to legalize this. So if you are too lazy to tell somebody that maybe they shouldn't consume this 100 milligram bar in one sitting, like, you're setting them up for failure and you're setting our industry up for failure. We're in this industry because we're passionate about it. I don't care. It's not like anybody is like, oh, should I work at Claire's or work at a dispensary? No, you're going to work at the dispensary if you're passionate about marijuana, okay? Because no parent is just going to be like, hey, why don't you just go get a normal job at a dispensary like your brother did? Like, no one's ever going to say that. You have to be passionate about this if you're going to be in it because it's not accepted by everybody. So I think that a discontent is something that needs to be fixed for these employees. I mean, I experience it all the time.
Well, I envision, like, when I order pizza, right? When I call up, not the first time I order, they know who I am because they see my number pop up. Yeah. They know what I've ordered before. They know my preferences, right? So if pizza can do it, I'm pretty sure a dispensary can work out some type of system where when a customer comes in and their card gets swiped, there could be an individualized experience put together on the spot. If the customer says he's been here 1,000 times, he knows what he wants, get in, get out, you don't need to pull me aside and do the consultation. However, if you swipe my card and it shows first time here, that's a whole different experience. But there has to be a way to instantly go from card check-in to entering the dispensary in that 5-second time span to create an individualized experience without it being a cookie cutter experience.
And there are so many different ways that you can do that. And that's why cannabis customer experience is such a passion point of mine because I am even trying to build out an app and a platform that would make it easier for brands to personalize these experiences because the information is there if you can track it correctly. It's invaluable because one, you can offer a better customer experience by knowing what they like. You can tell them about things that they may like as well. So that's not only furthering your business by upselling, but you're also increasing their satisfaction in your business and their knowledge of this amazing product. Yeah. So they might find a new strain that they like. They might find a new way to enjoy the strain that they like. And so by having the information and knowing who that person is by their cannabis profile, that can help in so many different ways for them and for your business. There is ways that we can do it.
I want to create the app that is a profile app that lets me carry with me not just my pertinent details of my profile, email, my name, address, that kind of stuff. But my preferences, my medical marijuana history, my previous purchases. So when I show up to a new place, if there's a way they can just USB insert it, it instantly downloads my profile preferences, the whole deal. Then we don't have to go through the whole answer the questions. Is this your first time here?
And that is completely possible on the medical side. The problem is they're trying to get med out of Colorado, which is shitty, and we're not going to let that happen.
You agree that's happening?
It is happening.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no denying that.
I've been preaching that for the longest time. You're the only person I've met who is actually like, yes.
Absolutely happening, and it needs to be fought. We need to not let it happen because I use it medicinally. Who was it? Tommy Chong, who said everybody who uses marijuana is doing it medicinally.
Yes, I agree with that.
And it is possible. We're given this resource. We have red cards, and immediately when you go into a dispensary that's medical, you are checked in and put into the system. Yeah. So by you checking in each time, they do have a record of each purchase that you've made. Yeah. This is easy. It's data that is not being used, and that is the number one problem with analytics and big data to begin with for all brands, not just cannabis brands. It's that you have it and you're not using it. It's not one of those you don't know what you don't know things. It's that you just don't know how to use it.
Yeah, they need to figure out a way to let people have access to it in an anonymous way to still scrape that data and use it without jeopardizing privacy or anything else that is within that data itself. But you're the first person who's actually... I've been telling people this for the longest time that I think Colorado is intentionally trying to get rid of the medical system by stripping the incentives away from dispensaries carrying medical programs little by little. And pretty soon there'll be no incentives left, so the program will crumble and nobody will ever have to say, I stood up and made it crumble. It will deteriorate by a just lack of the industry being able to provide medical programs because there's no incentives left. There's no money to make. It's too expensive to maintain. Patients are too difficult to become patients. Not enough patients to support the base. Yes, I agree. They're trying to get rid of the medical system. I hope that's what's being talked about in all groups, right? Whether it's Women Grow or any other group out there that people are talking about this.
The Impact Network, they are focused on making heavy strides to making sure that medical stays. The problem is if they take medical away from us, we are going to be turning away hundreds of thousands of people who move here who are these refugees. We are going to be taking medicine out of children's mouths and making it so that they can only use traditional pharmaceuticals. We're going to ruin lives all over money.
Yes. Unfortunately, we're preaching to the choir in this one because it's hard to get the ears of those who are not. That's the unfortunate thing with a podcast is we can't accidentally get listeners to hear this message. But that is the importance, in my mind, of media. That's the importance of the role I'm playing here. Is the role I'm playing in this industry is to bring those messages forth and let people hear them. I look at, whether it's a video or an audio or a podcast or, a blog, media is a very crucial part of how we're going to win this drug war by getting those messages, those stories out there. So in your business, you kind of have to determine how much focus do you want to put on making cannabis businesses money and how much of those skills do you want to put on making just the industry better, right?
And that is and it stinks that has to be a decision that I have to make, but that is where I keep my balance in doing a marketing company and then being able to be a part of Women Grow and supporting the Impact Network, because that is where also my passions lie. I see the value. I understand money and I know that it's needed to survive, but morals are always that is why I made my career change, is because I see the value in this plant as a medicinal option. And so for me, I will never focus on making businesses money if I don't believe in the industry anymore. And if they take away medical, I'm going...
Oh.
I mean, that is...
Are you going to say something that's going to indict you in a federal
indictment? No.
What are you going to do?
I mean, I would lose a lot of faith in this. And, Walmart weed is going to happen if it becomes legalized. There are going to be there are going to be states without medical programs. But we have become a state where families uproot their lives and they come here with the hopes that they can keep their child alive longer or that they can themselves stay alive longer. But what I really want to talk about is just how detrimental it would be to these children who have moved and they, maybe they don't like mountains, maybe they like the beach, but that's too bad. Charlie, because you have an incurable disease, but we can make it better for you with cannabis. But I'm sorry, you can't be home with your friends because it's only legalized here for medical purposes. I mean, it's like, I guess that we're not the only legalized state, of course. That's not what I'm saying. But we have more advanced programs. I would say our medical side is more advanced than California, and a lot of people would disagree with me on that. But I do find that
I would say it's
we have more
better
children
regulated,
patients. Yes.
And that makes it more advanced because the better regulation makes it more efficiently working and makes the availability of it more abundant within the community.
And Stacey Lynn just helped pass Jack's Law, which basically kids who come here for medical treatment for marijuana, just because they were able to have the treatment, it didn't mean that they could use the treatment at school. So what was happening is these parents would have to, even working parents, they would have to drive to the school, say that the child needs it after lunch. So they would have to drive to the school, take the child out of school, drive 1,000 yards away, distribute the medication. And it's not like they're like lighting up joints for these kids. They're mostly topicals, edibles,
right. Oils and stuff.
Capsules. And so had to drive them away from school, then bring them back. So it was already like you're ostracizing the child for having a health issue when a child with ADD is able to just go to the school nurse and get Ritalin. But children who had to use cannabis could never consume on site. So Jack's Law was passed in June, and now children are able to have their medicine administered by school nurses, which is a huge step. It took years to get there, and we're taking it away for money. That's not right. And we won't let that happen. Canna Moms is an amazing network, and Women Grow supports them 100%. I think that the state is going to have a bigger fight on their hands than they think. Women are warriors.
Have I put the nail in my own coffin by allowing you to come into my podcast network here?
No, I think that this is going to be very beneficial for both of us.
6 months from
and
now,
for
will I
the
be out of
industry.
my own company?
No, of course not. But I do think that something that I like saying as a woman entrepreneur, female entrepreneur, it's important as a female to believe in your strengths, and I'm a nurturer. And so by me not denying that, like, I am a nurturer, I am sensitive, I am woman. Like, I don't deny those traits about myself. I don't try to be something that I'm not by acting like a man in business and by outing people and by being conniving. That's not the way it is. I'm a nurturer. And so I found that I've been able to get more done by being sensitive and by caring about these things and by being so passionate in a meeting when I'm talking with Stacey Lynn, like breaking down and crying because like we're able to do so much, and like seeing her accomplishments by her embracing that as a mother and fighting for her son's right to have a normal education, to have treatment, like by her fighting for that, I'm just like, God, we're capable of so much. So like, I would just say that because groups like Canna Moms are banning with Women Grow, like I would say that the state has a bigger fight than they probably think.
Well, you give hope, I think, to the industry.
I would hope so. Thank you.
To the industry and individuals who want to be part of the industry. And I think you probably give hope to the world also, where more people can think on those lines, of just in general interaction with people and business. We might have a better society, right? It has nothing to do with cannabis. I think it has to do with just people, being human.
Being open-minded and caring about one another. Like, what happened to the golden rule? Did people forget? Like, do unto others as you would have done unto you? Like,
is that it?
Yeah. It's treat people with respect if you want respect.
I thought it was, I'm going to get mine.
Oh.
I thought that was the golden rule.
Yeah, maybe in a rap song, but...
Well, I am a rapper.
Oh, okay. Well, that's where the misconception was.
I'm a canna rapper.
Child safe, though, right?
Yeah, of course.
Child-proof.
Of course.
Child-proof.
Of course, because it has a Ziploc that goes from one end to the other.
Right.
So now it's
yes, and
safe.
kids don't know how to work that.
This has been a great insight into what you're going to bring to your own segment and then eventually your own podcast, right?
And I am very much looking forward to that.
Are you open to that?
I am, absolutely.
Because I don't want to put something on you that you're not really looking for. So when I say your own podcast, I'm saying like...
That excites me.
Like that's going to add another thing to your list of things.
Yeah.
Like that's going to be one more...
I got this.
Semi-business type thing.
Yeah, and that's cool.
Like
I'm
doing
cool
a
with
show.
That. Cool with that. Talking is my thing. I'm
you.
really looking forward to it. I know I don't shy away from a new responsibility, especially something because I have considered doing a podcast, and then I met you actually when I had a meeting with my friend on Thursday. I met you on a Friday after I had talked to her about ideas for a podcast, but it was just something that I hadn't even really been able to look into. And then you,
there you go.
show your everything happens for a reason.
Right?
It really does.
God
it's about
works
positivity
in mysterious ways.
He does.
By sending a man to give you what you need.
Yes, exactly. I see. I'm all about equality, so like I'm as open to working with men and women as possible. I want everybody to see that we can bring a lot to the table.
Well, excellent.
So I'm so grateful that you were willing to open this up to me.
Well, this should be exciting, and I would anticipate within the next few weeks having people hear that first segment out there.
I would love that.
But until we get to that point, let's make sure if somebody wants to talk to you about what you're currently doing, your current business, that they have all the information they need to get a hold of you, whether it's social media or websites or phone numbers, because that will just be an additional thing you're going to do. But you still do your digital marketing.
Yes. And I still do Aquarius Experience Consulting.
Experiences and probably a list of other things that we haven't even talked
about.
Belly
dancing, yeah.
Belly dancing?
Yep.
As a business or a hobby?
I teach classes, but more so, it's very broad.
Well, now I guess we'll have cannabis belly dancing.
Yes, we will. Pass the joint with your hips.
Oh, right? To test your balance, like
exactly.
the joint doesn't fall
have
off.
Like the little,
because it's all about
I love it. It is
right?
about balance. Well, I am very much looking forward to this. And if anybody wants to reach out to me before the next segment, please, you can add me on Facebook at Cannastasia Danielle or email me at cannastasiallc@gmail.com. To spell that out for you, it is CANNASTASIALLC@gmail.com.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me on.
That's
it's been a blast.
It's all over.
There you have it, Cannapreneurs. That's all I have for you this week, but make sure to stay in touch with us. Stay with us on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, Twitter, all the networks out there, even Mass Roots and YouTube. Make sure to follow us every week right here. Leave your comments, give us your feedback, be on the show. We want to see you every week. This is your community, so make sure to come back. We'll see you next week.